Advisor is always very pleased to welcome Larry Lattig, President of Mesirow Financial Consulting, one of the nation's leading financial advisory services firms. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Clay.
Yeah, I was talking earlier about how you have more than 30 years experience, and it's just incredible because you started, what, you were 6 years old?
Right.
Yeah, you're this phenom.
Yeah.
And now look at you.
I was really much better at it back then, too.
No, that's impossible. Okay, you were on a panel where you were talking about, where the deals are and where the deals aren't. So let's start with where the deals are.
Deals are in the, and I think everybody's talked about this, the oil and gas business. Yeah. I used on the panel, I used the analogy that I'm from Texas, which I think you knew, and we built that whole state on a single phrase that said, "Remember the Alamo." Somehow we can't remember that oil's not always going to be at $80 a barrel. So we go through these ups and downs periods. Right now we're in a down period. This is the time to buy. And I think if you've got the right team, the right management team, the right assets, this is the time to buy because the opportunity is huge.
And how long do you think this window is going to be open?
Well, it depends on what your investment horizon is.
Right.
I think that you can buy assets at a fairly low price in the next year if you're willing to hold them for 3 to 7.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty much the actual investors, not debt traders. Actual investors use a 3 to 7 year term.
So you don't see this stabilizing anytime soon?
No, if I were really going to make an investment there, I'd buy interest in some of the suppliers. The suppliers are always the first people hurt in these downturns, but they're also the first ones to come back. So there's 2 major suppliers in the oil field. It's Schlumberger and Halliburton. Well, you can't buy Schlumberger and Halliburton and trades at multiples that are unbelievable. But you could buy somebody that supplies to them, who are probably suffering right now. One of the things that plays with that statement I made about we can't remember the oil's not always going to be at $80.
Right.
Is the simple fact that we spend every penny we have when oil is high. That's the developing part. Texas is probably the only state in America that has a law that says you cannot borrow a second mortgage on your house in order to invest in oil.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So the banks all ask you to sign a certification when you do a second mortgage.
Huh, interesting trivia.
Yes.
So what other sectors do you see opportunities coming in?
Well, unlike most other people that talk about distressed sectors, I don't see retail as a big distressed sector. I think that the people that are in retail are, the distressed companies in retail are companies that have always been in bad shape. It's not necessarily a leverage. It's the simple fact that mall traffic's down. I believe it's down like 4%. And everybody thinks that their savior is going to be the online shopper.
You gave me an interesting statistic. Let's do
Right.
that again.
Yeah, the interesting statistic is that only 9% of retail sales come from online. Well, a 9% market share, a 9% market is not very small for a number of retailers to start sharing. I can only name one retailer that's been successful online, and that's Amazon. And as long as Amazon sells everything, how are you going to compete with them? They have the infrastructure required to get it to the consumer. So I think that's a problem. I would, this is probably one that nobody else has mentioned and never will mention here. But I would tell you that having looked at the Radio Shack deal, if you go in a Radio Shack store today, you're going to see that the first half of the store is nothing but phones. They offer phones from everybody, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple hundred. All of those people are in there trying to gain customers. And in the mobile business, the biggest expense is to gain the customer. And now we've got everybody can change to whatever plan they want.
Right.
And soon, you know, Apple's going to introduce the iPhone 39, and nobody's going to buy it because there's not enough innovations left to make. And if you say that with Apple, what do you do with Nokia and LG? And, you know, we're talking about big companies that are going to see a significant market shift when it just doesn't sell anymore.
Unless they start selling many more things besides the phones,
Right.
for example.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, then we talked about what's hot. What do you think is not hot? Retail, you said nah, but what else?
Unfortunately, industrials, manufacturing.
How about steel?
Are
No?
not hot. No. No,
I thought
actually,
the
steel's
infrastructure
doing
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Automobiles are going crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, they're better than they ever have been. All of those companies have dealt with what we've talked about before as a major problem, which is the pension liabilities. And all of those have dealt with it. You know, there's in Detroit, they had to deal with those pension liabilities. And if you think about what happened in Detroit, that was the main factor that caused their problems, is the pension liabilities. The industries that I just mentioned, being automotive and steel, and those people have dealt with those and have dealt with them well. So they're positioned to continue to grow and to do well. So,
What about healthcare?
you know, healthcare is always a problem for advisors like us. There's not much we can really do in the healthcare arena because it's all government forums and Medicare and Medicaid processing and Obamacare. I don't think that there's much you can do to turn it around, except on a hospital basis. But then you're talking about a for-profit hospital, and I think if the current administration has their way, all the hospitals will be not for profit.
Exactly. Okay, well, you have given us great insight into what's hot and what's not, and as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us, Larry. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to stop by.
Thank you.
Take care.